All right, let's talk about something kind of weird. There's this strange confession you see floating around the internet, a claim that sounds almost like a bad joke. It's the idea that a super dense, famously difficult book of French philosophy has literally saved people's lives. So we're going to deconstruct that. How on earth can a book with zero comfort offer something more useful than a shoulder to cry on? How can it actually be a procedure for survival?
This is the phrase, right here. You see it pop up in comment sections on old forums, and it hits so hard because it captures a very specific and, frankly, a very lonely experience. It's that moment when your life stops feeling like this open field of possibilities and just snaps shut. It feels like a verdict that's already been passed down on you. Every single path feels like a dead end. Every door is just painted on the wall.
And this gets us right to the heart of the puzzle. The book we're talking about, 1,000 Plateaus, offers absolutely no pity, no easy reassurances. It's not going to tell you, hey, it's all going to be okay. Nope. Instead, it hands you a toolbox, a set of procedures for literally redrawing your own situation. And the fascinating part? The reason it works seems to be because it refuses to comfort you.
Okay, so let's start with that confession. What does it even mean for your world to shrink like that? Well, the experience people are describing is one where all the complexity of life just collapses into a single, inescapable corridor, a straight line heading right for one final exit. The book doesn't argue with that feeling. It just gives you the tools to analyze the geometry of the trap you're in.
So, what are these tools? What does the book actually give you to redraw that situation? Well, the whole thing hinges on one crucial distinction: learning to see your life as a map instead of a tracing.
Now, to get this, we need a technical term. It's called a rhizome. And look, this isn't some vague, new age, everything is connected vibe. It's a really precise argument. It says that reality isn't structured like a tree, with one single trunk and a clear root system. It's much more like crabgrass, a network where there are multiple ways in and out, and any point can be connected to any other point. And what that does is it completely rejects the idea that there's only one correct path, or worse, only one way out.
And this slide just lays out the difference perfectly. A tracing, that's just copying something that's already there. It's like a coloring book. When you're in a crisis, you feel like you're stuck tracing the same dead-end thought loop over and over and over, as if it's your destiny. But a map is something you actually build. You can revise it, you can tear it up, you can connect totally different parts. A map is permission to stop treating that dead end as fate and start drawing some new route.
And here's what's so powerful about this. This isn't about some heroic lightning bolt transformation. The book insists that the lines that make up our lives, they're often super mundane, totally ordinary. Like the route you take to work, a nervous habit you have, your daily routines. The point is, these aren't just meaningless ticks. They are the actual material your life is made of. And if they're the material, well, that means they can be taken apart and put back together in a new way.
But this leads us to the book's most famous concept, and also its most overlooked warning. We're talking about the line of flight, that powerful, overwhelming urge to just escape. But this philosophy is not, and I mean not, a simple celebration of breaking free. It's way more complicated and, frankly, way more dangerous than that.
The book just says it, plain as day. Lines of flight are real. And that sentence is kind of scandalous, because when you're in a moment of total despair, it validates that feeling of an exit. It says, hey, that powerful sense that there is a way out, that's not just in your head. It's a real operation, a real force moving through your life. But here, and you have to catch this, here is the crucial turn. The very fact that these escape routes are real, well, that's the problem. A line of flight isn't some badge of honor. Because it's a real force, it has real consequences and very real risks. One person's escape can be another person's prison. The book absolutely refuses the romantic fantasy that just escaping is automatically a good thing. And the book lays out this really grim, unsentimental process. So first, an urge to escape appears. But then, if that urge fails to connect outward, to new people, new projects, new possibilities, it can turn inward on itself. It stops being about building something new and becomes about pure subtraction. Pure abolition, and that's when it becomes what they call a line of death. So here's the key. The text makes this connection absolutely explicit. It diagnoses that desire to end it all as a line of flight that got diverted. It's an escape plan that curdled. It's a movement that calls itself freedom, but it's actually become a machine for self-destruction. And you can see why this feels life-saving.
It gives you a language to tell the difference between a life-affirming exit and a self-abolishing one.
Now, because these dangers are so incredibly real, the book demands a totally counterintuitive discipline. So if you're thinking this is all about chaotic, break all the rules, freedom, forget it. What it actually proposes is a procedure of prudence.
This right here is a direct attack on that fantasy of a single, decisive act that's going to solve everything. The book warns that a too brutal destratification, basically a sudden, chaotic shattering of your life structure, it doesn't lead to liberation. Way more often, it leads to a collapse into something even more rigid, a harder cage that you build from the wreckage.
And the text says this over and over again. It insists on concrete rules of extreme prudence. This isn't about being a good little citizen and following social norms. No, this is a technical instruction. It's saying, when you are experimenting with the very fabric of your own life, you have to be incredibly careful, because the potential for self-destruction is enormous.
And these are the rules. They are so practical, not poetic at all. Practice dosage and pacing. Don't go all in at once. Refuse the fantasy of starting over from scratch. Instead, you have to work from where you are, right in the middle of things, and hold on to any small partial gains you make. And this one is critical. Understand that to change your territory is not the same thing as to destroy it or to destroy yourself along with it.
Okay, so all of this builds up to a final, actionable takeaway. What is the actual life-saving piece here? What's the thing you can actually use? Here it is. The real heart of this whole philosophy isn't about giving you permission to just drift aimlessly or escape your responsibilities. It's about giving you the discipline to select what to keep and what to get rid of. It's about building a method for choosing what actually increases your capacity to live, to act, and to connect with the world.
And this brings us to the ultimate practical tool, the life-saving criterion. It takes that overwhelming, all-or-nothing suicidal question, and it replaces it with a simple, local, repeatable one. You just have to ask of any action, any thought, any relationship, is this widening my map? Is it increasing my workable connections? Or is it just tightening that same old loop, that line of death that keeps pretending it's freedom?
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We tend to think that in our worst moments, what we need is comfort, or pity, or someone telling us it'll all be okay. But what if that's just wrong? What if the most effective, most life-affirming tool isn't a comforting hand on the shoulder, but a sharper, more rigorous criterion for choosing how to live? What if the best way to save a life is to hand it a better set of instructions?